What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Sheehan Show with me, Sean Sheehan, here on Sherdog.com. And today I'm back with a card review as I come to you directly after the Bellator Champions Series San Diego. Nurmagomedov versus Shabli. The card went down on September 7th, 2024 over in the Pachanga Arena in San Diego, California, in the United States. And it was a very, very interesting card, obviously topped by the lightweight title fight between Usman Nurmagomedov and Alexander Shibli. A bit of a how would you describe the fight? A back and forth fight, but not in the usual back and forth fight type of way. In fact, if you listen to the preview show here, I could just copy and paste what I said about this fight, honestly. It went exactly as I expected, and I think most people expected. But we'll get into all of that. There was some, I would say, overall, this was actually a great card. There was some like really good finishes. But I would say the good was very good and the bad was very bad. I would put it that way. The especially the Aaron Jeffrey Lima fight and the Zora Yancy Medeiros fights. You know, they kind of dragged the rest of the card down, but other than that, there was some really, really good knockouts, some lovely submissions, and honestly, this card, watching it live, it was brilliant, but, you know, those couple of fights took it away. If you were to watch this fight back after listening to me and took out those two fights, honestly, you'd nearly have a card of the year contender, to be honest. I think it was that good, because even before the good knockouts and all of that, the fights were actually very fun. There was a round of the year contender as well thrown in the mix, which we'll get to in a few minutes. So yeah, all in all, I really enjoyed it, and it's just about to turn 6 a.m. here, so let's get into it and let's talk through the fights. And the main event, first of all, actually, I have to say this right off. Now, everyone knows I'm very positive when it comes to previewing these cards and reviewing these cards. I like to take, you know, a positive spin on them always. But God almighty, oh my God, Khabib Nurmagomedov's screen throughout the first two rounds, he had the screen and commentary, and then they kind of turned down the commentary, and then they kind of turned it off. So I wasn't too bad with that. But still, oh my God, it was so frustrating. Like there was like just background Russian noise, and then you could hear the translator kind of saying like, "Oh, he's speaking Dagestani," and he wasn't able to translate it, but then he tried to translate. Oh my God, it was so bad. It was honestly, through the first two rounds, if my notes aren't great here, it was actually hard to take notes because it was so off-putting. They did it with McGregor as well, and it wasn't great there, but this one was worse because like Khabib was speaking a language that most people watching couldn't understand, and I really don't see the necessity for it. Now, I'm not a big fan of even going to the corners for 30 seconds in the middle of a round. I'm like, there's a fight going on here, let's concentrate on the fight. So for someone like me who has that opinion, to see it there for literally 4 minutes of the rounds, it was unbearable, really unbearable. And they did an earlier fight too as well. I just, look, they tried it, never again. Never, ever, ever again. Anyway, let's get to the fight. So this was a fight that, if you looked at it, and I wasn't really scoring it as we went. As I said, I was taking my notes, and I'm for this purpose, I'm better off telling you what happened rather than you know, piece by piece, rather than actually scoring it. I'd have to watch it again to score it properly. But from my point of view, I think from a lot of people who wouldn't be scoring it as they goes kind of point of view, if you were asked after what was the score of this fight, I think you'd probably go, it was either 50-45 or 49-46 to Nurmagomedov. And then be like, oh, what round? I'm well, maybe, I don't know, the second, maybe, I don't know. It was just one of those fights that he won, and there was no doubt about him winning, really. But I said earlier, when I was doing the preview for this, you could copy and paste in what I said in that preview with what happened. And what did I say in that preview? I said, Shabli looks for the shots, doesn't throw a whole lot, and Usman Nurmagomedov will probably just pick him off with more shots and win rounds. And that's exactly what happened. You know, Shabli actually probably threw less and landed less than I was expecting, or most people were expecting. Now, you could see by the way that Usman and Khabib actually talked after the fight that they had a great amount of respect for Shabli, as they should. He's a very, very good fighter, and again, as I said in the previous show, he's one of those guys that it's very hard to even see what he's doing some of the times in the middle of a round, and you come to the end of the round and you realize, the guy he's fighting has a bloody nose and has a black eye. You've barely seen him throw punches, yet his opponent is kind of getting beaten up. So Usman didn't want that to happen to him, and he absolutely didn't. So let's get into the goings of the fight here. Usman led with the lead leg kicks, and that was a real story of this fight, that front leg side kick. Shabli was able to counter the odd time though. His counter right hand did land throughout the fight multiple times, just didn't have a great impact, and there wasn't enough of it. Shabli whiffed on a counter, and really, look, the story of the first 90 seconds of this fight was the story of the whole fight. Shabli landed the odd one, Usman was kind of in control, Shabli whiffed on a few, and Usman was kind of landing leg kicks. That was the story of as I said, the start, and the story of the whole fight. Usman didn't stop the takedown attempt, which was one of only a couple in the fight. And Usman got his back after a scramble. Now, it was in the middle of this, the Habib cam started, and the scramble was like, what's going on in the scramble? It's just, there's like this background noise, and then Habib covering half the screen, and I go, what's going on here? Anyway, they got up after the scramble. I thought Shabli did a good job. Like, Usman's on your back early in the fight like that. You usually expect Usman, maybe not necessarily to get the choke straight away, although the position he was in, you could have argued he could have, but to at least like get the hooks in, pull you down, win the rest of the round type of thing. And he didn't do that, so it was very good by Shabli to get up. Usman landed those, front leg stomp kicks again, and Shabli was always ready with the counter. So an interesting first round. The second round started, and the leg kick started from Shabli, which again continued throughout the fight at times. Usman was landing the longer leg kicks from the outside, but a lot of the stuff was off the mark as well. A hard right hand from Shabli was the best shot that he landed in the start of the second round, and then Usman got into the clinch. There was more leg kicks from Shabli, and then Shabli hit him hard after Usman kind of tried to jump knee him. But there was a nice right hand for Usman after that, kind of as Shabli was circling the cage to get away from him. And then Usman had a late takedown try into the clinch. So I'm not sure, I haven't seen the scorecards yet, but if Shabli had won that round, I wouldn't have been massively surprised at all. Third round in, Usman, I thought, was a step further back. He landed that front kick, and his size and ability to strike from the outside was a real key here. Shabli just couldn't get enough going until he landed a right hand over one of those leg kicks, maybe 90 seconds in, maybe 100 seconds in. Usman was landing some nice leg kicks and body kicks. I thought the body kicks were very good from Usman throughout when he did land them. Shabli landed a jab to the body a couple of times while Usman was landing on was kind of dancing on the outside. And Usman landed a leg kick and an uppercut late, and I think probably that took him the round. But just to go back to those jabs to the body from Shabli, you're looking at a fight here from my point of view, right? And Shabli lands a right hand a couple of times, not to great effect. Usman knows he just can't leave himself open for that, because that's the main shot. And you find another shot here, you find another way to get them with this jab to the body, and you land two of them and you just give up on them. I'm like, that's just like your in fight IQ. I think once that lands, not that you need to necessarily continue to go back to it, but try to land a right hand off of it, or try to land something else off of it. Try to get him thinking about the jab to the body and go up high. It just didn't happen. The fourth round was the most interesting round. So you're looking at that stage, 3-0 Usman, maybe 2-1. And I thought the first half maybe of the fourth round, Shabli was actually winning. It was probably the best point of this fight for him. And you're thinking at that point, I mean, we'll get into what happened in a second, but okay, this could be 2-2 here, right? And then we've all to do got into the fifth, but that changed. So start of the fourth, Shabli misses on an attack and then kind of gets held up again. Usman was kind of picking and moving, but Shabli landed a lovely left hook and then a right hand after it. And there was a couple of shots that came before that as well that you were kind of thinking, okay, who's winning this round at this stage, you're probably thinking Shabli. And then that left hook and right hand comes and you think, okay, he's a good bit ahead here in a fight that, for all that I've just mentioned there wasn't anything of huge note there. So you're thinking, okay, right, if this round continues in the vein of the rest of it, Shabli very much could win this round from that point. But Usman got hurt by an eye poke, and it was kind of at a bad time because after that left hook, right hand combination, and Shabli was kind of attacking harder than he'd attacked in the rest of the fight at that stage. So it was a real bad time for him. But it was a genuine eye poke, no doubt about it. They exchanged leg kicks after that. Usman landed a front leg high kick that was just off, and then Shabli landed a nice body kick, stopped the takedown, and you're thinking at that point again, Shabli here is ahead. We got to the midpoint of the round and there was way more action in this, and it was really suiting Shabli, easier for me to say. They kind of landed in the clinch in the middle of the cage, both landed again. So 4 round was the best round of the fight, as I mentioned. But then Usman landed a hard head kick, hurt Shabli. Usman got the takedown, nearly went into the guillotine, went for the front choke, but didn't get it, but managed to get into the half guard. Got on top of Shabli, who kind of settled in and recovered, went for a heat hook, but that was no good, and then they got up towards the end of the round. But that head kick was definitely enough for Usman Nurmagomedov to turn it around and win the round. So from a prospect of possibly being 2-2, maybe 3-1, it went to either 3-1 or 4-0. So at this stage, the fight was going to be very hard for Shabli to win. And honestly, he didn't fight in the 5th round like that was the case. He came out and he threw a left hook and he did land a body kick, but then Usman kind of just got on his bike, landed that front leg side kick. Shabli was reaching in. When you see Shabli reaching in after a leg kick, he's not just going to happen. It's just not going to happen. It just wasn't going to happen at that stage. Usman again was on his bike. He kind of backed. When I say he backs into range, I literally mean he turned around his back and was kind of falling into range to just stop Shabli from hitting him, and he couldn't find a target. And another thing, I didn't write it down in my notes until the 5th round. I probably should have written it earlier, but the way Nurmagomedov defended that right hand by just literally like that, dipping his head down every single time. It was a little bit like, I don't know if you remember Daniel Cormier, John Jones. Jones told him, or I actually think Cormier said it, that, I dipped my head and you're not going to hit me with that left kick, and then he did. A similar thing here for Shabli. Now, it's very much easier said than done, but Nurmagomedov kept dipping his head. If you watch back that fight, every time from the 2nd, 3rd round on, he kept dipping his head down to the same side, and Shabli couldn't find it. Just couldn't find the target. And another thing that happened throughout the fight, he was cutting off the cage pretty well, Shabli, but he just wasn't landing those shots. Just was not landing them. Usman was dancing, dropping his head, got into the clinch late, and that was that. And he ended up winning the decision and retaining his title. I believe one judge had 1 round for Shabli and the other 2 had it for 50-45 for Nurmagomedov. Or maybe it was 2 judges had 1 round for him. I'm not too sure, but look, he won anyway and won the unanimous decision. Funnily enough, they had AJ McKee cage side. They were talking, you're fighting AJ McKee next, AJ McKee. I'll tell you what, there's a lad from this part of the world that's fighting AJ McKee in a couple of weeks, and we'll see. We'll see what happens in that fight. That's all I'll say. But either way, I'm looking forward to seeing what happens in that co-main event. I can't get over. I'll tell you what, I can't get over how good Lorenz Larkin was in this fight, because this was not an easy fight whatsoever, and Lorenz Larkin did what Lorenz Larkin does. I tweeted out that he's one of the most underrated hitters in MMA history, and I truly believe he is. The power that this guy has, I tweeted out as well, between the ages of 31 and 38, which he turned during the week. Happy birthday, Lorenz. He's only lost 1 fight. No, 7 years. And that was a split decision to Koreshkov, who he also beat. So, this guy is such a good fighter. There's no doubt in that. So the fight started off, both were kind of hopping on the outside. There was a nice left hook by Chokely, who caught a kick and took Larkin down. Now, you talk about mistakes in fights and fight IQ, he let Larkin up. And, if you have watched Lorenz Larkin and you're a good wrestler and you get him on the ground, you probably shouldn't be letting him up. But that's what he did. But Chokely was landing hard. They were both attacking and countering well. But you don't get into that game with Lorenz Larkin. Larkin rocked him with a right hand, followed up and finished him, right? But I have to say, this it stood out to me, right? It mightn't stand out to everyone, but if you watch this back, Larkin rocks him with the right hand, drops him, and then Chokely attempts to, like, panic wrestle, as anyone would. But Lorenz Larkin gets the underhook on his left-hand side, the right-hand side of Chokely, pushes him down, jumps back up to stop the wrestle, and Chokely kind of jumps back up with him, and then he hits him with more shots before the last 2 or 3 finish him. It was that split second in the most manic situation possible, decision-making, that separates the men from the boys, really. And what Larkin did there was brilliant. Now, I'm not calling Chokely a boy or anything, but I'm saying if Larkin wasn't able to do that, there was every chance that Chokely could have maybe wrestled him, held on, and not got finished at that stage. There was every chance, like, really is. But that was brilliant. It was a small thing, and it's one of those, us MMA nerds might love that, but I really, really enjoyed that. And he ended up finishing him on top with some ground and pound after that beautiful right hand. And he's going to be fighting Ramazan Nurmagomedov, it looks like, coming up here pretty soon. And I'll tell you what, that's a great fight. I saw my boy Kapoza talking about him possibly fighting Shamil Musayev, but who has another fight coming up soon. So I could see that happening too somewhere down the line. So let's bring them all on. And Lorenz Larkin seems happy enough to bring them all on as well. He's like, stop giving me easy fights, which is very funny. But fair play to him. Then we Douglas Lima against Aaron Jeffrey. Let's get through this one, because this wasn't a classic by any means. And I actually don't even blame Aaron Jeffrey, who kind of just blanketed Douglas Lima for long portions of this. Like, Lima's inability to move left or right and get off the cage was horrific. I get so frustrated with fighters like this, and obviously, again, it's easy for me to say sitting here, having never done it myself, but oh my god. And I don't care who wins, like, fair play to either of them. I've no horse in the race, but when you see, and Anthony Pettis does it the odd time as well, all the time as well, such a talented guy, and it feels like there's like 1% of a different game plan, and you'd be like 100% of a more, killer fighter, and it just wasn't there. Having said that, could you give Lima a card here? I think you could. You could give him the first 2 rounds. Now, the first round, Aaron pushes the pace immediately, gets a takedown, but on the takedown, Lima hits him with, like, the side of his glove and, like, cuts him open right between the eyes. And that's the story of the first round, really. He just bleeds all over him. Now, I do think Lima won the first round because he was battering elbows from the bottom, and Jeffrey wasn't landing nearly as much, but he was bleeding all over him. It was hard for the judges. Like, there's no way I think the judges could have actually seen what cut him. So very hard round to score for the judges because of that. But anyway, Lima eventually kind of got to the cage. Aaron kind of just held him there, landed a couple of knees, and then there was like, or they got to their knees, sorry, and there was like a low clinch for ages. Aaron landed some stuff, but nothing major, so I think that's a Lima round. The second round is harder again to score, because there wasn't a whole lot. Lima, like, immediately backed up, and then rocked him with a hard jab and a right hand after. Sorry, a right hand first and then the hard jab, and then Aaron dives in on a double leg, gets the clinch. Lima uppercut on the break, but stays against the cage, and he landed some McGregor elbows, and Lima, he got the clinch. There was finally a break, and then, he drive you insane. I just have written in my notes here, there was a clinch for ages again. I'll tell you what, I'll go back on what I just said there. That was the round he definitely won, I think. The McGregor elbows, the jab that rocked him, I think you can't be scoring that round against him. And honestly, I'll say it, I would have scored the first round for him as well. Like, but the problem with that is you're kind of guessing where the blood came from. Luckily for me, I saw where the blood came from because they showed it on the replay. So that might be a bit cheating, but it did happen. It did happen. So, it was a close one. The third round, Lima finally moves a bit, lands some shots, and you're thinking, okay, here we go. And then just stops. Aaron takes him down, guard, landing nothing, for like 2 minutes. Couple of shots inside, they got up to the clinch, then he landed some small knees. Lima landed a punch in the break and then an elbow inside, but then Jeffrey got a late takedown again. It was just a bad fight. There was a stage in that third round as well. I don't even think I was writing notes for it. I was so demoralized with it. But, like, the referee could have stood it up. Like, what are you doing here? Like, you're just, there's one lad anti-fighting here. Now, I does Lima deserve it? He didn't fight great, to be honest, so maybe not, but you've one lad here, he's just lying on top of the other guy. Stand them up, like, it's in the rules, that's the way MMA is refereed. Let's just stand them up. Like, I think sometimes, I think it was Frank Trigg, and, we had Paul Buntello and refereeing as well, and Chris Lieben was judging. And I think sometimes, people are used to always be saying, oh, we need ex-fighters judging and ref. And I think sometimes the ex-fighters are too keen to, like, say, oh, there should be no stand-ups, so we're not going to stand it up. And that's wrong. Because we have the rules that we have now. Let's go with it. But anyway, the fight ended like that, and Jeffrey won. I believe the unanimous decision was, let me just check here, he did indeed. But yeah, if this was in the UFC, Jeffrey'd probably be off the Brave CF, I think. But anyway, then we have Tsukimo Inaba against Mackenzie Stiller. This was a really fun fight. Really enjoyed this one. Watched a bit of both of them coming in, and I thought Inaba would, maybe dominate this one. But Stiller brought it. There's no doubt about that. High volume early. Inaba was happy to answer. Landed the better shots early, but that didn't last at all. Stiller landed a good few right hands. Inaba landed a combination, but Stiller got a single leg, got into the clinch, and then a big judo throw takedown, but it quickly got up. Knee from Stiller in the break of the clinch was one of the bigger shots. Then she got a big double leg takedown, but again, up quickly, and Inaba was good there. She was countering her hands and rock Stiller with a head kick towards the end of the round, and it was a close round. Inaba definitely came on better towards the towards the end of that first round. Kind of around the two halves, if you want to put it that way. Inaba very much more aggressive at the start of the second round. Stiller was deep on a takedown but didn't get it. Then they got to the clinch. There was a head and arm throw by Stiller who got into the scarf hold, but it didn't last, and they quickly got up again. As the commentator said, when you go for them and you get them, it's great, but when you don't hold the position. So that's what happened here. Stiller landed right hand and then clinches, but Inaba was able to land a lovely elbow, and in a second and in a third that hurted Stiller, and then she landed loads of shots in the clinch, and the referee took a look. They landed a load more. She went all in on the clinch, and the referee was looking at it, landed some massive elbows, but then Stiller tossed her, took the back, got an armbar, and I was like, oh my god, this has come back in a year here. Unbelievable stuff for Stiller. But Inaba got out and got back on top, landed some massive elbows, huge ground and pound, and then the referee came in and stopped it. So, real fun round altogether. Even the start of it, before the madness on the ground, was brilliant, but the elbows in the clinch, the big shots in the clinch, the throw, the back take, the armbar, and then the finish at the end. Honestly, this could be round of the year. Very much could be round of the year. So I very much enjoyed that one. And a great win for Inaba. And then we had Yancy Medeiros versus Zora Zanyan, who's a very hard name to pronounce. Again, this one, not really a classic. This is the sort of fight where Zora is a good record, up-and-coming guy. You're putting him in there against Yancy, who should probably be in fun fights and nothing else at this stage of his career. So I don't necessarily understand this. I didn't think it was a great performance from either of them, to be honest. Very little for the first 90 seconds, and Zora got a takedown. Yancy up to the clinch, but Zora never let go and slammed him down, chain wrestling for ages. There was about 6 mat returns into the guard against the cage, did very little. Yancy stood up with a front choke at him. And honestly, there was so little. I think Yancy might have won that round on my card with the front choke attempt, because Zora landed no strikes. Could you argue there was a bit of damage in the throws? You could, I suppose, and if you gave it to him for that. But if you gave it to him for just the takedowns, I wouldn't be giving it to him, to be honest. But the choke made him defend. It forced him to defend. So there we go. But that's me and my my judging nonsense. Anyway, both landed some combos early in the second round. And I thought, okay, we're going to get better here. Yancy was jabbing his way into the pressure. But look, he looked his age a little bit like Larkin, anything but. But to me, Medeiros did. Zora landed an overhand right, got a takedown into the clinch, and then the chain wrestling and mat returns started again. Some punches under the arm from Zora were very, very nice in the middle of all those mat returns. Then the third That overhand right again for Zora landed. It was nice stuff. Yancey was just jabbing like Holly Holm from the outside about 10 miles away. Zora landed a jab and then a right hand followed by another jab, which was nice. Happy to kind of pick away knowing he was winning. Yancey landed a nice leg kick, which is probably his best shot of the whole thing. But a slam from Zora off a single leg. And here we go again with the chain wrestling. Yancey escaped quicker this time, but there was no real urgency with these strikes. Zora landed a lead hook, which was very nice. Late clinch and takedown again, and that was the end of it. And there was no doubt about this one. Towards the end of it, Zora ended up winning it. Of all the decisions, though, on this one, the best one was undoubtedly between Jordan Newman and Imeshafi Aliyev. Great performance from Newman. Let's get into it here. He came out in southpaw. Both were kind of touching lead hands. Jordan threw a strike, but they seemed to be off point at the start. But that did change. He landed a counter shot, which was the first real attack. Aliyev's first real attack was countered by Jordan Newman, which kind of changed how Aliyev could approach the fight after that. You know, he went for a takedown attempt that Aliyev swatted away by Newman. And you're thinking at this stage, like, what's the plan B for Aliyev? You know, he landed a nice left hook, but there was very low output. He attacked with the right hand, but he was dropped with a counter from Newman. So, you know, Newman won that round. He was the better of the striking, and he the better of the grappling. So again, Aliyev, what are you going to do here? Newman started the second round with an uppercut into a left hand, which was lovely. Aliyev, as I said, he didn't want to strike because of the counters, but he switched inside and hit Newman with a little bit of an uppercut himself, so that was the adjustment he made. But Newman was happy to pick kicks on the outside, try to force Aliyev in. Then Aliyev started to throw his own sort of leg kicks. He landed a right hand, and there was a check hook by Newman that hit Aliyev very, very hard, which took away all the good work of Aliyev. Newman was in a guillotine then as well and landed some knees. So, to me, he was 2-0 up there. Aliyev was attempting to land some jabs and left hooks at the start of the third, but, you know, it went okay, and then they just stopped landing. Newman landed another check right hand, which was a better shot than any of them. Aliyev finally landed a left hand that hurts, and you're thinking, okay, maybe he's going to come into it here. But, you know, was he in the round up to that stage? Maybe. But then a knee from Aliyev was again countered by a hook, and then Newman dropped him with another check left hook late to take that round. For me, it was 3-0 Newman, and he ended up getting a unanimous decision. So Jordan Newman moves to, what is he now? Let me just check here. I believe he is 7-0 now. Is that correct? 7-0, yeah. And he looked tremendous here. So I think, you know, this was a big step up. I think there'll be another big step up for him coming after this as well. Right, let's run through the rest of the fights here. Then we had Herman Terada against Masayuki Kikuri. Kikuri, way taller, big southpaw. Terada was very square and fighting from miles out of range. And, you know, it was a bit, one of those fights, kind of the tall guy against the shorter guy. Kikuri was landing the jabs from the outside. Very little landed inside the first half around. Left hook from Herman was the first big shot, but Kikuri landed some leg kicks, which were answered. Kikuri then was controlling with his lead hand, but Herman was defending well. He also bowled inside and got a big takedown slam, but Kikuri was straight up into the clinch. But Herman tossed him late, which tossed him to the ground there, which allowed Kikuri to kind of take the back as the round ended. Close enough there. You know, Kikuri lands some kicks low and high to start the second round. Herman was immediately throwing more in this round, up the pace, no doubt about it. Had a couple of 3-punch combinations, which were good, but he was missing a lot of shots too. Kikuri landed a few front kicks. Herman was off with his jabs. You know, the smaller guy, it's always kind of going to happen, I suppose. The Kikuri landed a right hand low and another one high. Then leaping left hook from Herman was a good shot. But there was one section, and this happened multiple times, the zone. I've complained about the zone before. The feed just died and it went to like black and green. You could still hear the commentary, but it didn't say what happened. And it came back and Kikuri was just on top in the quarter mount. I was like, what's after happening here? No idea. There were some elbows from Herman from the bottoms. But Third round in, Herman came out swinging. Kikori landed a leg kick. And he did a quick jab and he was pushing the base and definitely looked better here to Kikori in this round. Herman was countering and he landed a nice left hook of himself. So the pace definitely upped here again, as I said. Kikori leg kicks and another left hook by Herman. A right hand lands for Kikori and then Herman looks tired as Kikori kind of smartly jabs to the body. Herman went for a takedown attempt, got into the clinch, and as they were in the clinch, Kikori broke, landed a battering left leg kick right to the liver and finished Herman Tirado at 2:54 of the third round. Beautiful liver kick KO. KO the year contender, I think a lot of people would say. Brilliant stuff altogether. And in the first three fights of the night, we had three quick finishes. Bryce Meredith, the wrestler, looked good, but Jonathan Makaloluli gave him a good matchup here. Jonathan was fighting southpaw and he was fighting from the outside. Bryce was closing the distance with big wild strikes, but Jonathan took down the wrestler. You know, he went for the guillotine, didn't manage to get it. They got back up. There was a head kick off the transition from Jonathan. Bryce, to me, looked hurt and he went in for a takedown from miles out, didn't get it. But then Bryce landed some strikes, which set up a takedown, which was the smartest thing he did. And Jonathan got up, though. An easier takedown, this time against the cage for Meredith, who got to the quarter mount. Took the back with one leg controlled. Bit of ground and pound. Rear naked choke. Choked to sleep. And when I said to sleep, I mean literally to sleep. They're still waking him up about 2 or 3 minutes later, but I think he was alright and got up in the end. So, you know, Meredith, green as grass, but looks very, 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 very high in the prospect list. So keep watching him. This is a tough matchup against a guy who's been fighting for a long time. Hasn't fought in a while, I believe, but he did well to get the finish, and there's plenty to work on. Then we had a heavyweight matchup between Josh Hokett and Sean Rose. Again, you know, Hokett, a top wrestling prospect coming through, and we're expecting him to run through a guy like Sean Rose, but Rose gave as good as he got here. Hokett, for a wrestler, you know, he's kind of fighting off the back foot and trying to strike, but Rose landed some jabs. He stopped the first takedown, but not the second. Hokett adjusts as he stands and kind of rides on the back, put in hooks, but then Rose turned into the cage with his back, and he defended very, very well. Hokett jumped off, and he takes the back again after he lost it the first time, and he gets it further from the cage, so he's in a more dominant position here. But Rose is moving around and defending well, but he just couldn't escape the ride position. And, you know, two big guys, it's not always easy to get like rear naked chokes to get the back hooks in, but Hokett's ability to kind of use that ride position and the wrestle ride as well as the jiu-jitsu ride, as Jimmy Smith called it, was very, very good. Then Hokett got into the mount, went for the arm triangle, but again, Rose escaped. There was no quitting him at all. Hokett gets to side control and moves back to the mount and then takes the back. Hammer fists and elbows were the first kind of big shots of the round. And they were quickly adding up. But then, as the round was just about in, let me get the time here, 4:58, Josh Hokett jumped on the armbar, and he got it. He got the armbar, tapped out with 2 seconds left in the very, very first round. And again, I believe he's only 2-0, isn't he, Josh Hokett? He is 26 years of age for a heavyweight. You'd have to put him down as one of the top prospects in the heavyweight division, so looking forward to seeing his run. And then Ashley Tinner against Asia Cortez. Tyner. Ashley was a taller striker hitting from the outside. Cortez started and she went in for a takedown, but it ended in a prolonged clinch and then there was a break. Tyner, the southpaw, was landing with the left very, very well. Cortez came in under for the clinch, but Tyner just kind of dominated in that position, landed some clinch knees that were very, very good, dominated the striking too, and landed a lovely head kick late. To me, I've written here in my notes, Tyner won every part of that round, and I think she did. Like, even when she was getting clinched, I think she was winning it. She looked even looser in the second. Lovely leg kicks. Cortez did take advantage of that, though, and got in close for to attempt to get a takedown, but in the end, it was no good. Right hands hurt Cortez, who now looked very tired, and then she bloodied her up, felled her, and then some massive standing ground and pound before the referee stepped in to stop the fight at 3:11 of the very second round. So good win then for Ashley Tyner. Right, that is it for me. I'll run you through the results just quickly. Again, Usman Nurmagomedov retained his belt, beating Alexander Shively by unanimous decision in the main event. There was a first round KO for Lorenz Larkin over Levin Chokli. The unanimous decision win for both Aaron Jeffrey over Douglas Lima, Zora Arzian over Yancy Medeiros, and Jordan Newman over Imeshafi Aliyev. And in the middle of that, you had Simoko Inabi beating Mackenzie Stiller via second round knockout. You had Kukuri defeating Herman Torrado with a third round knockout and a submission with a rear naked choke in the first round for Bryce Meredith, as well as a Josh Hokett armbar submission in the first round against Sean Oz. And as I mentioned there, Ashley Tyner with the second round knockout over Asia Cortez in the opener of the card. All right, everybody, thank you very much for tuning in. Another Bellator again next week. I'll be back with the preview, so check that out on Sherdog.com. But until then, my name is Sean Sheehan for Sherdog.com, and see you all next time.